will we have the opportunity to listen to understand, and to imbibe, to realize the pastimes, the intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion, is Rupa Goswami's, you could say, it's his the kind of the jewel of all of his literatures. This is why Srila Prabhupada chose it. It's Rupa Goswami's own book, and Rupa Goswami is the foremost writer of the 6 Goswamis. He is actually the writer of Bhakti. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu particularly empowered him to understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And Srila Rupa Goswami, in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is giving all of this. So we should not feel that this is ordinary, that, oh, this is just, this is the normal thing. No, this is very, very, very special, because Rupa Goswami is giving it to us so that one day we can come to Krishna. So number 20, these are the things that we should do. Remember, number 19 was all the things that we should not do. Number 20 is one should be very intolerant toward the blasphemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or his devotees. So it's an offense, obviously, to blaspheme the devotees of the Lord, but a positive aspect is not just that we are not blaspheming ourselves, but we should be intolerant of the blasphemy toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotees. And now in this, we have to be a little careful, because oftentimes the blasphemy of a devotee or between devotees happens by another devotee. So it's devotees, having disagreements with other devotees, right? This is, because devotees are associating with devotees, so it's only going to be between devotees. So in the course of being intolerant of the blasphemy of a devotee, we should also not become blasphemers, right? So if let's say some manager is criticizing or blaspheming a devotee, and we feel duty bound that we say don't do this, or we resist it, then in return, then we should not cultivate a mentality of blasphemy that now we are blaspheming the management, because then we become the same. We become non-different. And this happens often. We slip into it, that, we find someone who is blasphemous or critical or problematic, and then we ourselves become very critical and blasphemous of that person. In the long term, they did it in the short term, we become long-term blasphemous of them. So very nice principle, very important principle for bhakti. If we don't blaspheme ourselves, but if we tolerate the blasphemy of another devotee, then it almost becomes non-different than blaspheming them. Just like I was reading this passage from, the book is called The Sunflower, and it's about the Holocaust. And the author, Simon Wiesenthal, he's a Jewish survivor from the Holocaust. And he was saying that how when they were being persecuted by the British, then, sorry, not the Germans, then the Nazis, not the Germans even, the Nazis, the ISS, then the Jews were feeling, so much anger towards them, so much hurt was there. But they were also feeling very resentful of all the other countries who were standing by silently and watching them be persecuted and not doing anything. And at that time, Simon Wiesenthal, he says that, I was wondering if it was only the Nazis who were persecuting us, or was it the whole world that was persecuting us? And were these people who are silently watching by, this is what he exactly says. He says, I was wondering if they're any different than the Nazis who are actually persecuting us. So, so if we see that another devotee is being persecuted, blasphemed, insulted, then if we don't speak up, then it is non-different than us blaspheming them. But then as I mentioned, we must do in a respectful way, and we must not then after that, after speaking up, not imbibe the same mentality and become blasphemous towards the blasphemer. Also, the Shastras tell us what we should do. If we hear blasphemy of a devotee, then the first course of action that we can take is to respond to that by strong arguments. And that's the best way. So rather than getting on the level of blasphemy, we give solid reasons. We give logical reasons why this is incorrect. And just recently, I was in a situation like that, and you just you don't act on the emotional level. You present it step by step. This is why this is why it's wrong. This is why it's wrong. So through arguments, you try to respond, and that is the best way, because then you are defeating the offensive mentality. Then the Shastras say if that doesn't work, then the devotee should cut out the tongue of the other person. So if the other person is completely unreasonable and they're not giving up their blasphemy, then we should cut out their tongue. Now, of course, that is not possible. That's only possible for great personalities. And actually, what is said is that means symbolically you should do that. In other words, you should stop them from speaking by some, just like if a president of a temple is seeing that two devotees are there and one person is being very blasphemous, then if that devotee has the power to do so, they can stop them from speaking. If they're blaspheming Srila Prabhupada, then don't let them give class in the temple. So that's like cutting out the tongue. That's not allowing the tongue to speak then. So first, we should try to do it logically, not that but just by force, by oppression, we stop the blasphemous. But if that doesn't work, and the person is we have these back to Prabhupada people, they stand outside the temples and they just blaspheme everyone and all the gurus. Then they won't listen to any argument. Then the course of action is to stop them by not giving them a platform to do their blasphemy. And if that doesn't work, then the Shastras say that one should leave the place. So sometimes no one's going to listen to our logic. Sometimes we don't have the power to stop them. Then the very least that a person should do is leave the place. Because leaving the place is a form of protest. And also one should not hear such blasphemy, because that blasphemy can affect our own consciousness. So here the 20th principle in the 64 items of devotional service is that one should be very intolerant toward the blasphemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or his devotees. And devotees who knew Jayananda Prabhu, whose Prabhupada himself made him a saint in our tradition, they actually recall that Jayananda Prabhu had this very special quality, that he didn't want to hear anyone's bad qualities. As soon as someone would start saying something bad about a temple, about a devotee or a temple, he would change the topic. He wouldn't hear it. He just was not into hearing bad things about other devotees. Is Srimad Bhagavatam 10:24-40, and thus he was a saint. Therefore, Prabhupada made him into a great saint, because that's naturally we have the inclination, due to our conditioning, we actually have the inclination to hear about gossip, and we enjoy it. But when we develop the inclination not to hear, not to engage in it, and not to criticize, and not to blaspheme, then we've developed godly qualities. Then we know that we've actually become godly. My dear king, if a person, after hearing blasphemous propaganda against the Lord and his devotees, does not go away from that place, he becomes bereft of the effect of all pious activities. Wow. Bhagavatam 10:24-40. So it's not just that us blaspheming will will affect our consciousness. is if we support the person who's blaspheming, if we tolerate it, and if we don't go away from that place, if we don't, oppose it, we become bereft of all pious activities. This is why we're obliged, we're duty bound, not just that we should, we're obliged to speak up against blasphemy, because otherwise we lose our spiritual advancement. We become bereft of our pious credits that we have worked so hard to cultivate. In one of Lord Chaitanya's Shikshashtaka verses, it is stated, the devotee should be more tolerant than the tree and more submissive than the grass. He should offer all honor to others, but may not accept any honor for himself. In spite of Lord Chaitanya's being so humble and meek as a devotee, when he was informed about injuries inflicted on the body of Sri Nityananda, he immediately ran to the spot and wanted to kill the offenders, Jagai and Madhai. This behavior of Lord Chaitanya is very significant. It shows that a Vaishnava may be very tolerant and meek, forgoing everything for his personal honor. But when it is a question of the honor of Krishna or his devotee, he will not tolerate any insult. So this is actually, it's so amazing that we're reading this today, because we just had Nityananda Trayodashi. And this is a great lesson in the story of Jagai and Madhai. This is a great lesson that is taught through the pastimes of Lord Nityananda. The Lord Nityananda, being the perfect Vaishnava, when he was offended and insulted by Jagai and Madhai, he forgave them. He didn't want to see any punishment inflicted on them. How many of us are like that, where if someone hurts us, we don't want any punishment inflicted on them? We want punishment inflicted on them. We want them to suffer. We think, and especially when we hear that they suffer, we think, see, Krishna's so just, job done, so good, right? That was well deserved. But Lord Nityananda, he is begging Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please don't punish them, please forgive them, please liberate them. But Lord Chaitanya, coming in the mood of a devotee, and remember, this is him as a devotee, not as God, as the devotee, he cannot tolerate that Lord Nityananda, a great Vaishnava, the greatest Vaishnava, has been offended by these two offenders. He is not willing to tolerate that. So he immediately takes up his chakra and he's ready to cut off the head of these two, Jagai and Madhai. And what had Madhai done? He had thrown this glass bottle on the forehead of Nityananda, and blood was coming out from his forehead. This is a great offense to a great devotee. So Lord Chaitanya, he was intolerant, though he is the most merciful, because this was not about himself. If they had insulted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have forgiven him. But because they insulted another devotee, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, applying this principle, he was not willing to do that. Prabhupada, he says here, it shows that a Vaishnava may be very tolerant and meek, forgoing everything for his personal honor. But when it is a question of the honor of Krishna or his devotee, he will not tolerate any insult. One should decorate the body, number 21. One should decorate the body with tilak, which is the sign of Vaishnavas. So we should decorate our body. It's interesting that I'm reading this today, because I think just today, this morning, I forgot to put tilak on. I was running to Mangalarti. It was a little late, so I forgot to put tilak on. So we should put tilak on our forehead and on our entire body. So that is very important. It is part of a Vaishnava principle. And see right here, Rupa Goswami says it. So those people in ISKCON who say that these things are not important, they're all external, just don't worry about wearing tilak, they are not following Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami didn't say that if you're living in America, then you shouldn't put tilak on. Or Rupa Goswami didn't say that if we are not full-time devotees, then we don't need to put tilak on. Everyone has to put tilak on. And every morning, we must put it on. Yes, when we go to work, then we can wipe it off. But when we are present as devotees, when we are in the temple, we should always have it on. One person came to my Guru Maharaj, one devotee, his disciple, came to my Guru Maharaj to meet him. And he didn't have tilak on his forehead. And my Guru Maharaj told him that you should never go to your spiritual master or Krishna without tilak on your forehead. So it's actually a little offensive because it's a sign of humility. The tilak, the two lines represent the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So it's a sign of humility to put the feet of our spiritual master or Krishna on our head and then to go in front of them. So very important. This is a Vaishnava principle practiced by in time immemorial. Lord Chaitanya himself, his associates, they all wore this Gopi Chandan, the dust from the Ganges or the Yamuna or from Vrindavan. They wore it on their forehead. In the Padma Puran, it is stated, persons who put tulsi beads on the neck and who have Vishnu tilak on their foreheads make the world purified. And anywhere they remain, they make that place as good as Vaikuntha. In the Skanda Puran, it is said, persons who are decorated with tilak or Gopi Chandan and who mark their bodies all over with the holy names of the Lord, and on whose necks and breasts there are tulsi beads, are never approached by the Yamadutas. Number 22. Sometimes when we write Hare Krishna on the body, So this is, Rupa Goswami himself is saying, this is an optional one. You don't have to write the holy name on the body, but one can do that. And this is why, this is the one, if a person really has a desire for a tattoo, it's the one spiritual tattoo one can have, is one can put the Maha Mantra on one's body. I still don't recommend, you could say, these modern tattoos because they are chemicals and can cause cancer. But in previous times, what people do naturally, what they would do is they would take a hot metal engraving of the holy name and put it on the shoulder, and then that makes a permanent mark. So that was you could say, the natural way of tattooing the holy name on the body. Or one may hear the word is written, one should write it, just by some chandan, make just like we wear tilak, you write it on your body. Or with a pen, you can write it on your body. So wherever we can put the holy name should be everywhere, even on our body. And our body should be adorned, our mouth, our tongue should be always adorned with the holy name of Krishna. Number 23, one should accept flowers and garlands that have been offered to the deity and the spiritual master and put them on one's body. This is why everyone in the whole Braj, in the whole India, they are always rushing to the altar when the pujari comes out with a garland or something and trying to get that garland. Why? Because it's a devotional principle to put those garlands around our body. And then when we receive it, we should not, sometimes people get flowers and they're like, oh, Prabhu, you take it, because they don't want to deal with it. No, we should put it around our body. We should purify our existence by putting the flowers of the Lord around our body. Even if one does not accept all the Vaishnava principles, but still takes the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna or Krishna Prasadam, he will gradually become qualified to rise to the platform of a Vaishnava. So under this, accepting the flowers, and under this principle, Prabhupada writes how simply by accepting the prasad, see, prasad means mercy. Prasad can also mean to flowers. Prasad is like what's offered to the Lord is when you receive it, that's prasad. You receive the prasad. It can also be the Lord's clothes. that the Lord has worn, or the Guru's clothes that you receive as prasad. So simply if one accepts Krishna prasad in any shape or form, one becomes qualified to rise to the platform of a Vaishnava. Rupa Goswami here is saying. And we see this is actually Prabhupada's process. That's why sometimes people say, oh, this whole, prasadam thing is overrated. Why the temples are working so hard to make Krishna prasadam. We should just give people Charanamrit and that should be enough. Yes, but why did Prabhupada establish this? In other temples, they just give you Charanamrit and a few fruits. But Prabhupada established this, vast, you could say, sumptuous prasadam, because just by eating that Krishna prasadam regularly, one gradually becomes qualified to rise to the platform of a Vaishnava. Just by eating that Krishna prasadam regularly, the guests, most of who just come for the prasadam, they will one day become Vaishnavas. And that's what Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami here are saying. And in fact, we see that's what happens. When people keep coming to the temple and eating the Sunday feast, then one day they become Vaishnavas. That's how many of us became devotees. We weren't attracted to the philosophy, we were not attracted to the kirtan, but by having regular prasadam, we became devotees. So Mother Malati, I was with her, she was, this is Prabhupada's disciple and servant, Mother Malati. She mentioned that during Prabhupada's time and until recently, the standard Sunday feast that Prabhupada set was a fried item, either puris, pakoras, or kachori, rice, 2 or 3 types of sabji, dal, salad, and 2 or 3 types of sweets. And I think I'm missing some, and a chutney, chutney also. This was the Sunday feast that Prabhupada had established. Why? Why so much labor? What was the purpose? Because just because of that feast, people will come. And because of that feast, they will regularly eat Krishna Prasad. If you give them fruits, they won't eat it regularly. Sometimes the fruits, the bananas, they become like that. They'll come to the temple, they're like, I don't want that banana, or even that apple. If you give them fruits, they won't take it regularly. But by having this sumptuous prasad, they'll come and they'll fill their bellies with prasadam. And then they'll fill it so much that there won't be room for anything else. And they'll fill it so much that their belly will almost explode. And then they'll become purified with that explosion of prasadam in their body. Right? So this is Prabhupada's own process. This is Rupa Goswami's devotional process of how to make everyone into devotees. In one place, Prabhupada says that if we make just this one vow that I will only eat Krishna prasadam, just by that, you will go back home, back to Godhead. So Prabhupada gave us the easiest process. But even that is hard. When we go out, we want to have that, what is it? That, nice sandwich with cheese and karmi made bread. And some devotees now, they're saying in ISKCON, oh, karmi bread is okay. It's okay to eat at restaurants. They just have to be vegan restaurants. But no, Prabhupada said, if you make this one vow that I will never again eat anything except for Krishna prasadam, you can go back home, back to Godhead, just by that vow. Reading these things actually in this Nectar devotion is actually so inspiring, because many of us, many of you on the call, make so much effort in cooking Krishna Prasad. And sometimes you wonder, is it worth all this trouble? And here Rupa Goswami is saying that we can rise to the platform of a Vaishnava just by this practice. Now, this is to get us to the platform of a Vaishnava. Once we are a Vaishnava, then we also have to reduce or simplify the prasad that we eat. And that's yet the next, harder. So first, it's hard not to eat anything other than prasad. But then we see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita how Raghunath Das Goswami would not accept the prasad that was offered to Lord Jagannath in the Jagannath temple. Imagine, this is Jagannath Mahaprasad. I mean, this is so pure that even if you eat it rotten, it will purify you. And I actually had this experience that we got this Jagannath Mahaprasad, and this is like so rare. So we saved it nicely. We took immediately, but then we saved some nicely because we were thinking that, this is Jagannath Mahaprasad, let's share it with some other people and let's eat it over time. And then, unknown to us, it went bad. Like it was actually, it was bad, like totally bad, spoiled. Because in India, the heat is so strong. But it was Jagannath Mahaprasad. It was the Jagannath Mahaprasad. And so it was the only time in our life, but I remember I ate it rotten. It was like rotten, but I just finished the thing. And it was amazing that when I was eating it, it didn't feel like rotten food. Like normally you can't stand it. Like, but it was just, I still remember the taste. It was so nice. And I didn't get sick at all. It was actually, you could see that this is actually transcendental. This is not ordinary prasad. Jagannath prasad is not ordinary. So Jagannath, he was living in Jagannath Puri, but he would not accept Jagannath prasad. Why? Because he said to Lord Chaitanya that it's too opulent for me. And what would he accept? He would accept the rice that was thrown out of the kitchen of Jagannath's temple. So still Jagannath prasad, but not what came off the altar. What was thrown out, the refused rice that was left there for the animals to eat. He would take one palmful of it, and that's what he would eat every day. Similarly, the Goswamis of Vrindavan, they would have one small cup of buttermilk every day. Because as we further progress in spiritual life, then there are further nuanced principles. And that is that the devotee does not even want to enjoy sumptuous food to tillate his senses, but rather he only wants to spiritualize his senses. So he only accepts, of course, Krishna Prasad, but only the most simple Krishna Prasad. And that has to do proportionally with our level of advancement. We should not practice it artificially. We cannot practice it artificially because Prabhupada says that it's the taste of ghee that actually replaces the taste of meat. By eating ghee, we give up the taste. So similarly, by eating Krishna Prasad, our senses that are very agitated and very sensuous and passionate, they become pacified. So if we give up prasad too quickly, I give up nice prasad and we just eat, carrots, then we may become agitated in other ways. And I actually have an authorized reference for this. When we were doing one time Navadip Mandap Parikrama, and His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, it was his parikrama, like when he leads it. Most amazing experience in my life. It's just, if any of you can do it, any Navadip Parikrama, with him especially, or the one that is, the one that happens coming up in March, February, it's the most valuable experience in life. And so he was doing his the 10-day parikrama, Navadip Parikrama that he does. And he specifically told his organizers that make sure the prasad is very, very amazing. Make it very opulent. Serve paneer every day and all these things. Because he said that the devotees will only be able to appreciate the dham, and they'll only be able to listen and hear if they have nice prasadam. If their senses are, if they have sumptuous prasadam, this is what he said. And he was speaking to the level of our advancement. Obviously, a very advanced devotee would not need that. But because we were just starting in our spiritual life, he knew that this is needed for that. So like children also, children can become nice devotees, but they need nice prasadam. Otherwise they become, resentful. So this is, we spent a lot of time on this principle, but it's not just kind of like a ISKCON joke, Krishna prasadam, and, sometimes we think, oh, it's not actually really part of our process. We kind of do it for the fun. But this is part of our process. Prabhupada said it's the kitchen religion, ISKCON. So number 24, one should learn to dance before the deity. This is a principle of devotional service. Again, we may not like to dance, but Prabhupada said, if you dance, then you will feel like dancing. One devotee went to Prabhupada and says, when I'm in kirtan, I don't feel anything, Prabhupada. I'd like to stand in the back because I'd have no taste for the holy name. He says, if you dance, then you will want to dance. So we should learn to dance. It's very interesting. We should learn. So even we should have classes on how to dance before the deity. Maybe we don't do that actually. We could have some dance teachers teach how to dance, because there's also a way to dance. I still remember when I was doing my Bhakti Shastri, this is actually during that time in Philadelphia. This was about exactly like some 20 years ago, 21 years ago. I still remember that one of the devotees, this is like the time in ISKCON when most devotees were still American devotees. So most of the students were like, white-bodied American, devotees who had joined, were off the street, and some of them were like musicians, some of them were punk rockers before, some of them were tattoo artists. Like, it was a really interesting and fun group. And so we were doing Bhakti Shastri full-time over the summer in Philadelphia. And the Philadelphia temple also is a very kind of it had a very strong Western base. And so this one devotee, before joining, he was like a punk rocker. So he knew breakdancing. So during kirtan, he would do breakdancing. I still like really like authentic. He would like sometimes, flip over on his head, and he would, be like walking on his hands and then turn around, and it was very ecstatic to see him dance like that during the kirtan. But all of a sudden, when he would dance, all the focus would turn to him. So, he would be in the middle, and then everyone is looking at him doing his dance. And Ravindra Sarup Prabhu was one of our teachers. He was there, almost full time during that time. Philadelphia was like his temple. He was the president there. And so he was there. And the first time when he saw it, then he after the kirtan, he told the devotees that this is a very nice sentiment, but this is not the way to dance before the deity. Why? Because when we dance like this, then the focus becomes us. The focus is not Krishna. So men, women, however we dance, it should be done where Krishna is in the center and we're dancing towards Krishna. So there's a way to dance so that the Lord is glorified, not that our body is highlighted. And so one has to learn how to dance before the deity. Now, when great souls in our movement, when they also dance, then all the devotees turn around to see them dancing. But still, it's very devotional, and the focus is still, Krishna or the spiritual master. Sometimes they see them because they're the spiritual master, not because they're just enjoying the dancing. They're seeing their dancing as because they're their spiritual master. So that's also an art, and one has to learn how to dance before the deity. One has to dance and dance in a way of devotion. In the Dvaraka Mahatmya, it is said, a person who is in a jubilant spirit, who feels profound devotional ecstasy while dancing before me, and who manifests different features of bodily expression, can burn away all the accumulated sinful reactions he has stocked up for many, many thousands of years. So previously, in every home, the girls would learn dancing. They would learn some form of dance. And that was generally Bharatanatyam. And if we see that those dances were all in glorification of the Lord, they're all for the service of the Lord. So we think of dancing as generally dancing in kirtan, but even dancing like an art, like a professional art form, can be a form of worship to Krishna. And this is why all the girls would learn dancing, so that they could dance in front of the Lord. And just see here that by dancing in front of the Lord, one can burn all the accumulated sinful reactions that one has accumulated for many thousands of years. Such a powerful process of bhakti. And therefore, we should encourage everyone. Bhakti Sarup Damodar Goswami, he would tell that in Manipur, which was a Vaishnava state, every girl in school, like it was the school curriculum, would learn the Rasa Leela dance. And then once a year, they would have Maharasa Leela in Manipur, where tens of thousands of girls would come and dance in the same Rasa Leela, all done for Krishna. And the whole city, the whole cities would come and watch it. Such glorification. Now, as it becomes more and more secular, that tradition is going away. But still to this day, every girl in Manipur will learn how to dance for the Lord. In Jagannath Puri, they would learn dance, and they would only dance for Lord Jagannath, for no one else's pleasure, but only Lord Jagannath's pleasure. Because this is the way they purify their existence. Like the gopis, their dancing for Krishna is their way of worshiping Krishna. It's their way of glorifying and worshiping the Lord. So similarly, not imitating them, but following in their footsteps, the devotees learn to dance for the Lord, because that is devotional ecstasy. That is a service to the Lord. And here Rupa Goswami is confirming that dancing for the Lord is an actual service. There's one devotee in Mayapur, you all may have seen him. He's not seen now because he's gotten older, but for many, many years we would see him. And he was actually someone unique for like not just 1 year, it was like decades on decades. Every year devotees would see him in Mayapur for the festival, and he would continuously dance. I mean, he couldn't be doing it artificially. He would dance for 6 to 8 hours a day. He would just be jumping up and down and dancing in the kirtan. Like he was dancing. And then wherever he lived, I don't know where he lived, devotees there told he was also dancing there all the time. Like somehow that was the devotional service he loved. Then one day his knees completely went out. And so now I saw him actually, the last time I went to Mayapur, I recognized him. He was there for the Mayapur festival, but he had bandages around his knees. He couldn't dance anymore. He would kind of like that. In Lord Chaitanya's intimate associates, there were some who were specialized in dancing, like Rakreshwar Pandit. And it said in, I think, Chaitanya Bhagavat or somewhere, that anyone who sees the dancing of Rakreshwar Pandit, just by that, he becomes fully purified. So by dancing for the Lord, or by seeing the dancing done for the satisfaction of the Lord, one becomes fully purified. One should learn to bow down immediately upon seeing the deity or spiritual master. Immediately one should bow down. This is a devotional process again. If one does not bow down, then that is a great offense. One story of Srila Prabhupada, there's one time Prabhupada came, and I think his servant at that time was His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He was standing next to him, and when Prabhupada came off the airport, then there are like hundreds of devotees, and the moment he came, all the devotees offered their obeisances immediately, head down, full dandavat or half dandavat. Out of love, everyone immediately offered obeisances. But there was one devotee who was just standing, no expression on his face, just standing. He didn't offer his obeisances. And, when everyone's on the floor, he was just standing, which was like, a bit odd. And Prabhupada was, maybe 10 meters away, kind of far away seeing. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj on his side, he was holding Prabhupada's bags and things. And he was with Prabhupada. So naturally, he was not going to offer obeisances. And Prabhupada turns over to whoever was next to him. And he said, looking at that devotee, he said, that is the beginning of his fall down. So the devotee who did not offer obeisances, Prabhupada said, not to him, but said to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, that is the beginning of his fall down. So when we don't offer our obeisances to the spiritual master or the deity, then that is an offense. This was also Indra's fault towards Brahaspati. Indra, in the Bhagavatam, we see he was sitting on his throne, and Brahaspati comes in, and he doesn't stand up and offer obeisances to a spiritual master. He keeps sitting. And when that happens, then Indra loses all of his wealth for years, for tens of thousands of years. They are under the they lose their strength, and the demons rule for that. So it's such a great offense to disrespect or not offer obeisances to the spiritual master, because that then Indra does like three other things that, you know, then he does another mistake. It's exactly like Prabhupada described. It becomes the beginning of his fall down, and then of course he rectifies himself, but it takes a long process of purification. As soon as one visits a temple of the Lord Krishna, one must stand up. As soon as one visits a temple of Lord Krishna, one must stand up. So, you know, when there's the arti, we're standing. Sometimes you want to, you know, do it sitting. But Rupa Goswami here is saying, when, you know, there's certain ceremonies going on, Abhishek, Arti, we should stand, because that is offering respect to the Lord. When the deity is being born for a stroll in the street, a devotee should immediately follow the procession. So if the procession is happening like it happens in Mayapur, here we see, then one should join the procession. That is bhakti. Just, you know, walking along with the Lord, because it's the Lord's party, it's the Lord's procession. We should not avoid that procession. 28. A devotee must visit a Vishnu temple at least once or twice a day. Amazing, huh? One must visit a Vishnu temple at least once or twice a day. Again, I think we covered this point in a different way. So this is maybe the second time Rupa Goswami is mentioning this. Again, Mother Malati was visiting Naperville, and so I mentioned to her that I was not, you know, you know, we go to the temple a few times a week or once a week. And she said, we should go to the temple every day. She said, every day you should visit the temple. She said, you know, on your way to work, you can stop there. And she said that the deities in the temple are thousands of times more powerful than your deities at home. She said, undoubtedly, the deities in the temple are thousands of times more powerful than the deities at our home. So visiting the temple is different, even though we have deities at our home. But by visiting the temple daily, our heart and our mind becomes purified. Of course, some of us may live too far away, or we may have some health issue, we may have small children, and we cannot do it. But the principle is there, that we should try. We should not undermine the importance or the principle of visiting and having darshan of the deities in the temple. We should never prioritize our own deities in relationship to the deities in the temple. The deities in the temple are installed deities. They're worshipped by thousands of devotees. They're more powerful, and they are to be visited and worshipped. One must circumambulate the temple building at least 3 times. Very interesting. Again, in the Western world, sometimes we cannot, because the temples aren't made that way, or there's no way to get access. But one should try. Again, if the opportunity is there, we should circumambulate 3 times. One must worship the deity in the temple according to the regulated principles. So temple means, deity means that we have to worship them according to the regulated principles. Not doing so can lead to offenses. Again, one must render personal service to the deities. This is very special. We get the opportunity to do so, and we should do so. And this can be home deities or temple deities, but one should try to render some personal service to the deities. Many of us are very busy, but if we have one thing that we do to our deities, like it might be a daily arti, it might be a daily offering, or it might even just be offering daily flowers, but some personal service, some connection we have with the temple, with the Lord in the home, recognizing that He's the Lord of our home. The home belongs to Him. One must sing One must sing the glories of the Lord. One should chant and sing. One should not just chant on japa, but one should do kirtan. One must perform sankirtan. One must go out on Harinam, the MSF, the monthly Sankirtan festival, or book distribution. This is all Sankirtan. And Rupa Goswami is saying one must perform Sankirtan. There's one letter that Prabhupada has written to Tamal Krishna Maharaj. In this letter, he gives 10 things. Because Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked for some guidance. Prabhupada, there's so many things that you've told us. What's the most important thing? What's the most important thing, Prabhupada? He says, your number one important thing, he tells the devotees, is street Sankirtan. 1 hour you must go out and do street Sankirtan. Sankirtan means Harinam, book distribution. He says, then if you have time, you should chant your 16 rounds. This is the second most important thing. Then he says, then if you have time, then you do your deity service. Then you have time, then, or he says, no, read the books. The number 3 was reading books. Then fourth, the deity service. And like that, he has a whole list of 10 things. Actually, I need to find that. It's very interesting. But generally always, it's our chanting of 16 rounds is the most important. And Prabhupada says that also so many times. But just to emphasize the importance of Sankirtan, and I mean, not just that, Prabhupada said it. I mean, the point is that this is, for whatever reason he said, it was Prabhupada's decision. He said, your number one important thing is street Sankirtan. And then in the letter, Prabhupada emphasizes again, I still remember reading, he says, whatever it is, he says, don't leave this street Sankirtan. This street Sankirtan, he said, the Harinam, that should never be given up. He said that will purify all the people who hear it, and also the devotees who are doing it. Like, it's so powerful, Prabhupada knew that if we do it, we'll stay Krishna conscious. There's no question, if we do it, we will chant our 16 rounds. Just like, why do we chant our 16 rounds? So we get purified, and so we stay devotees, and so we please the spiritual master. The Prabhupada is saying that this street Sankirtan, he said to Tamal Krishna, you must never give it up. So and we practically experience it also, right? When we go out and preach, and there's many forms of preaching, but Prabhupada is saying specifically Sankirtan, then we feel so much bliss. And why is that? Because Sankirtan is the Yuga Dharma. And His Grace Ayendra Prabhu makes that point actually in one class. He says, Japa is not the Yuga Dharma. It doesn't say anywhere that Japa is the Yuga Dharma. He says Sankirtan is the Yuga Dharma. So he says, if that is a Yuga Dharma, then that is a Yuga Dharma. And therefore he was saying everyone should do Sankirtan. So Sankirtan is very, very powerful. We should not think that it's anything ordinary. And chanting our 16 rounds is our vow to our spiritual master, to the deities, and we should never give that either. But a Sankirtan is not optional. Everyone, you may be an accountant, you may be your service might be giving classes, you might be a pot washer in the temple, but everyone has to participate in Sankirtan. When it's time for Harinam, everyone goes out, because everyone can do that. In Lord Chaitanya's time, everyone was going out on Sankirtan. This is the Yuga Dharma. No one has the liberty to avoid the Yuga Dharma. I remember we used to do Sankirtan in Boise, and even the spiritual masters, the sannyasis, the GBCs, who are sometimes very old, they would go out, because this is Lord Chaitanya. I mean, no one's more qualified than Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya would go out on Sankirtan. So this is Lord Chaitanya's example. Again, of course, health issues can be, that's different. Sometimes a devotee is sick and they cannot go. But aside from that, we should always do Sankirtan. 34, one must chant. So simple. 34 is one must chant. Chanting here can refer to japa, can refer to Sankirtan, but one must chant. One must offer prayers. So Chanting is so wonderful. And sometimes our chanting becomes a little mechanical. So chanting is sufficient in of itself. Nothing else is needed. But sometimes it becomes a little, so by offering prayers, we then sometimes chant in a prayerful mood, right? So Prabhupada said that we could memorize, and we should memorize, the prayers of Queen Kunti, the prayers of, of great acharyas, and recite them daily. And why? Because we are not qualified to offer prayers. Our prayers may be materially motivated. But if we repeat the prayers of the great souls, and that's Mangalartik also, Sansara Dava, that's a prayer, Tulsi Puja, Nrsimha Puja. If we offer these prayers, then when we chant, we will chant in a prayerful mood. And Prabhupada's program, that's why it's Mangalartik, then Japa time, then Shingarartik, then class. So why the Mangalartik? We could, just skip that. But that is the offering of the prayers. So now there's 3 different types of prayers. And this part is very, very sweet. We may think, well, how should we offer prayers? So one principle in offering prayers is samprarthanatmika. Samprarthanatmika. Very feelingly offering prayers. Offering prayers with a lot of feeling. And here's an example of a samprarthanatmika prayer. Just as the minds, okay, I'll read the Sanskrit. Yuvatinam yatha yuni, yunam cha yuvato yatha, manobhrima manobhira mate tadvan, mano me ramatam tvayi. Just as the minds of young ladies take pleasure in thinking of young men, and the minds of young men take pleasure in thinking of young women, kindly let my mind take pleasure in you, Krishna, alone. So this is with feeling. Young men and young women think about each other with great feeling. And similarly, the devotee is asking, let my mind be attracted to you spontaneously, with great love and feeling. Let it take shelter of you alone. So wonderful, huh? And that's very nice because Krishna is so wonderful. So it's very easy because we can think of Krishna with great feeling. Krishna Deva bhavantam vande manmanasa madhukaram arpaya nijapada pankaja makarande. Krishna Deva, I offer this prayer. May my mind, like a bee, become offered at your feet, which are lotuses of nectar. Krishna Deva, I offer this prayer. May my mind, like a bee, become offered at your feet, which are lotuses of nectar. This is by Rupa Goswami. Another very short prayer that's done with feeling can be very even short. Prasida Bhagavan. Oh Lord, please be merciful to me. We don't know any other prayer, we can just say this. Prasida Bhagavan. Oh Lord, please be merciful to me. Here we see, I think this is where Uddhava Kund, devotees sitting, no, not Uddhava, they're sitting at a kunda, begging the Lord for mercy. These are the demigods going to Lord Vishnu. Oh Lord, please be merciful to us. Then a second type of prayer is called Dainya Bodhika, humbly submitting oneself. So these are prayers, not just with feeling, but these are prayers of great humility. We see that devotees in our tradition, Lord Chaitanya's associates especially, they offer prayers submitting great humility. Vatsamo nasti papatma na paradhi cha kaschana parihare pilajjame kim bhruve purushottama. O Purushottama, Supreme Person, there is no one as sinful and offensive as I am. How can I describe myself? I even feel ashamed to give up my sins. This is from Padma Puran, quoted in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So this is from the Padma Puran. Just imagine, it's from the Puranas. O Purushottama, there's no one as sinful and offensive as I am. How can I describe myself? I even feel ashamed to give up my sins. This is the way a devotee feels about himself. Yatha dushta dushtatvam me davayati shashtasyapi kripaya. Yatha dushtatvam me davayati shatayasyapi kripaya. Yatha mahyam premamritam api dadhatyujvalam vaso. Yatha Shri Gandharva Bhajana Vidaye Prerayati Mam Tatha Goshte Kakva Giridharam Mihatvam Bhajamana. Even though I am a cheater, the Lord's mercy can drive away my inherent wicked nature. Give me the glowing nectar of divine love and inspire my heart with the process to worship Shri Gandharvika. Therefore, O mind, with pleading words, you should worship Shri Giridhari here in Vrindavan. So, the devotee is saying that I am unqualified, I am a cheater, I am wicked, yet some are the other. Please give me this process of worshipping Gandharvika Giridhari. O my Lord, please protect me, who am surrendered unto you. I am most fearful of this ocean of material existence, standing as I am in the mouth of death. Devotee realizes that, what is my pride for? I'm in such a precarious condition. I'm standing in the mouth of death. At any moment, I can just die. We think, we're so confident of ourselves. Any moment we can die. Please, I am surrendered unto you. Please protect me from this ocean of material existence. Yoham mamat matsiyat kishchid iha loke paratracha tat sarvam bhavato dvaiva charaneshu samarpitam. Myself and whatever little I possess in this world and in the next, all this I now offer unto your lotus feet. And the final one is lalasa mai, desiring some perfectional stage. Lalasa mai. So this is prayers. First one was prayers with feeling. The second one was done in great humility, prayers of humility. And this is a prayer for earnestly asking the Lord for a perfectional stage. When one realizes something of his constitutional relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he understands his original position and wants to be reinstated in this position, either as a servant, friend, parent, or conjugal lover of Krishna. That is called lalasa mai, or very eagerly desiring to go to one's natural position. So these prayers are expressed on very advanced levels of devotion, especially when one has realized one's eternal Swarupa with Krishna and now is praying to the Lord to revive that relationship, to revive that service, that perfectional stage that one has lost. This Lalasa Mai stage of submission comes in the stage of perfect liberation, which is technically called Swarupa Siddhi. When the living entity understands by perfect spiritual advancement and revelation his original relationship with the Lord. So the mirror is now clean. One can clearly see one's eternal form. So, as I mentioned before in a previous class, a devotee prays in this way when they're on that level. And ordinary devotees cannot pray in that way. However, ordinary devotees like myself can repeat those prayers of those advanced devotees, the Lalasa Mai prayers. So we can still say those prayers, but not composed by ourselves, but repeated by these acharyas. And one of these prayers, we do it every single morning as part of our daily Mangalarti. And that's why we see that Srila Prabhupada's morning program is so potent, because it's actually bringing us, it's actually preparing us for this stage. When we sing this Tulsi Puja, then we're saying, Mora e avilash, vilash kunje diyovas. We're saying that it is my desire, O my Lord, that you give me residence in Vrindavan Dham. And who are we to ask the Lord for that? But no, the acharyas are asking, and we are repeating, that please give me residence in your kunjas in Vrindavan. Another perfectional stage could be asking for spontaneous love for Krishna, like in this phrase, O lotus-eyed Lord, when will I dance on the bank of the Yamuna with tears in my eyes while singing your names? The cowherd boys are doing this. Krishna is doing this. The gopis are doing this. The associates of Lord Chaitanya are doing this. So it's essentially asking for liberation. When will I be on the bank of the Yamuna in Vrindavan Dham, engaged, participating in your pastimes? O Master of the universe, when will you, accompanied by Lakshmi, say with a deep voice to me, eager to serve you with Jamara, please come here. So this is a devotee in that bhava, asking the Lord, when will you call me to fan you with my chamara? When will you tell Lakshmi Devi that please fan me? Narottam Shri Rupa Manjari Pada says, by the power of those lotus feet, my activities will become favorable to devotion. I will achieve spiritual perfection. And with these two eyes, I shall be able to actually see. Both day and night, the flood of exquisite beauty of Shri Rupa Manjari's divine lotus feet will shine like the brilliant full moon upon the lotus of my heart, soothing my afflicted soul. So wonderful, isn't it? So amazing. So wonderful. Narottam Das Thakur says, Radha Krishna Pranamo, Jugala Kishore. In a forest of small kadamba trees, on the bank of the river Yamuna, I will seat the divine couple on a throne made of brilliant jewels. I will anoint their dark and fair forms with sandalwood paste, scented with chuya, and I will fan them with a chamara whisk. Oh, when will I behold their moon-like faces? After stringing together garlands of malati flowers, I will place them around their necks, and I will offer tambula scented with camphor to their lotus mouths. So all of our songs of the Vaishnavacharyas are so wonderful because these songs are all in this mood of Lala Samai, this mood of eternal perfection. And we get the chance to sing them and imbibe those moods, learn those moods, and become purified in this way. So we should try to pray to the Lord, Rupa Goswami is saying, in these three different ways. And Rupa Goswami gives verses and examples of all three different ways of praying to the Lord. Like this is an example of this one, this is an example of this one. When you read the chapter, you will see. So this is so wonderful. Maybe one last slide I'll cover here. In other words, one should learn how to cry for the Lord. One should learn this small technique, and he should be very eager and actually cry to become engaged in some particular type of service. This is called lolyam, and such tears are the price for the highest perfection. Such tears are the price for the highest perfection. So we're going to talk about this more next time. I need to stop here now, and we'll just have about 5-10 minutes for questions. Any comments or questions? This is a very beautiful chapter, not very philosophical in nature, very simple, so to say. So it may be self-evident, but if there's any comments that you would like to make, any realizations, please share them. I hope someone was listening. Everyone's on mute. Please feel to unmute yourself.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. Yes.
Can I had such an experience back 3-4 years or maybe more, that I had a dog brought from Grenada, where we were residing for my son's education in the medicine school. So that dog became so attached to me, and I got attached to her. German Shepherd. I brought her from there by air. And I was in the park in New Jersey, Hudson Park. All of a sudden, she disappeared. And then I was in my car driving slowly, yet I was so upset and disappointed. And I cried out, "Hey, Prabhuji, why have you done that to me? What happened?" And I was so despair. I was surprised that an idea came to my mind. Why shouldn't I inquire my local police station? And I did, and I got the information from there. So my crying made what happened, what inspired afterwards. So as you said, aansu bahane se, aise aansu bahane se, Krishna जो है ना उस फटाफट सुन लेते हैं. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu, for the nice comment. And the goal is that one day like that, like you're crying to Krishna for him to reveal where your dog is, one day we will cry to Krishna that Krishna, please reveal where you are. We will cry in the same way, with the same intensity for Krishna.
Which I do, yes, almost every day.
Very nice, Prabhu. Very wonderful. Thank you. Very nice comment. Vijayashri Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandvat Pranam. This is from the previous last class.
Okay.
You mentioned in one of the rules that one should not eulogize or praise anyone else before the deity. And then you said the exception is to praise the gurus. That's why during Guru Puja, the curtains are open in Prabhu Aarti. So my question was that when we do Tulsi Aarti just before the Guru Aarti, that time the curtains are closed.
Yes.
And, what is the reason behind that?
Yes, very nice point. Actually, that's I don't know actually the official answer for that. But Tulsi Maharani she always resides at the lotus feet of Krishna. Like her mood with Krishna is she's she's in the mood of being Krishna's maidservant. And so she may not find it so pleasing if we are worshiping her in front of Krishna. And so maybe that's one reason why we close the curtains, because it's just, it's the spiritual master in that role. He's also at the feet of Krishna, but in that role, he's representing the Lord. But Tulsi Maharani in that role is representing a devotee. Like we want her mercy as a devotee of the Lord. She's not exactly representing maybe Krishna as Guru is representing, So it's a difference of bhava, even though both are devotees. The Guru is a devotee and Tulsi Maharani is a devotee, but she's not in the mood of a Guru in that way, although she is Guru. So actually, I don't know the answer to your question. It may also just be that at that time the deities get dressed. And so it's tradition that, after Mangalarati, the curtains close and then the deities get dressed. But always I've seen that Tulsi Puja is not done before Krishna. So it may be that, her bhava, her mood is like a servant of the Lord, and she finds it a little uncomfortable if we worship her in front of Krishna.
Ji Prabhu, thanks.
Thank you. Yes, nice question, but I'll actually do research in that because it's a very interesting question. So Asta Sakhi Charana Mataji, would you like to speak your question or should I read it?
Okay, Prabhuji, I will read. Last Kartik, we went to Vrindavan, and over there they were distributing the bead bag made from Srila Prabhupada's clothes as a prasadam. So I got it, but I'm not sure, should I use that cloth, the bead bag, or what should I do? And second point is one time Indra Yamuna Swami, he came to New Jersey, and he used some handkerchief and he gave it to me that, okay, you take this, after he used it. So in both of the cases, I got that prasad from, but I don't know how to use it.
Yes. So my Guru Maharaj, he received a ring that Prabhupada had worn. And he received it. Prabhupada gave it to him, a ring and also a watch, two things that he has. The watch Prabhupada wore, it was a Rolex watch, and he gave it to my Guru Maharaj. And both of those things he wears. He wears the watch and he wears the ring, because that's the proper way to respect the prasad. So using that same logic, I think is good to use that same bead bag, because that's how prasad is used. I mean, that's prasad as a bead bag. So by using that as Krishna prasadam, you're actually honoring it. The handkerchief, that is slightly different. That's a cloth that's been worn or used by the spiritual master. So in the case of the handkerchief, I wouldn't use it as a handkerchief. I would keep it as an item next to your altar, or I would keep it, in a sacred place, sacred space, and worship it. It's like Prabhupada's clothes that Prabhupada wore are still there, but devotees don't wear those. That's different, because that's the cloth of the spiritual master. So that has to be, just put on our head in some ways, like we touch it with our head. But bead bag is like bead bag, all these other articles, these can be used because you're using it only for chanting. You see, like handkerchief, you'll use it for your nose. So that's a different thing. So I think it's a good point. Two things, but they need to be used differently, I think.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Very nice question. Devi Murthy, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So I would want to speak on the significance of tilak that you mentioned. I had an experience about tilak, wearing tilak outside home. So once I was in Whole Foods and I was checking out with the groceries, and she was a young girl who was checking out at the counter, and then she was asking about the tilak, and she was so excited. She was so happy. She said, whatever you are wearing on your forehead, it's so beautiful. And I don't know what it is, but it is really beautiful. And I feel so attractive. And can you tell me a little bit about it? Why are you wearing it? I know it's something to do with your religion, but can you explain me a little bit about it? So just wearing tilak on the forehead
Yes.
gave her some exposure about Krishna and the spiritual life. So that's what one example I wanted to mention.
That's wonderful. Yes. Actually, it's so true that this way of devotional dressing is actually so attractive. Like any other place you put paint, you can look odd. But when you wear the tilak, somehow the face brightens. And like everyone says, oh, it's so beautiful. I've had not such a stark experience, but similar experiences. It actually, people are more attracted. They're more friendly when you wear this. Normally, if you wear a robe, people won't be. And because we don't have the faith, we think, oh, people are going to look at me weird. But because this is transcendental, because it is actually touching the soul and it's coming from the spiritual world, all these things that Prabhupada tells us, it actually attracts the heart. It has the opposite experience. It has the opposite effect. So we should never be afraid to wear the Vaishnav dress. Of course, unless there's an issue of security, like in Muslim countries, if you wear it, you can get attacked or something. But we should never be afraid to wear them. There's some devotees I know, they went through their entire college wearing tilak. I also wore, but not throughout my college. But they went through their entire college wearing full Vaishnav dress, and they did amazing. So yeah, they were successful and thrived in every way. Okay, anything else? Thank you very much for your very kind attention. We'll stop. Danvat Pranam, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu, for your wonderful comment. Yes, we just have to pray to Krishna out of love, like you're saying, and Krishna helps us in whatever service we have.
We shall start doing very seriously now onward.
Yes,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.